Hi, thank you for stopping by. My name is Lynn Leusch, Training Manager with Fun Stamper's Journey, and I want to welcome you to a 3-part video series in regards to our new fun FSJ scoring board. Now, why 3? Well, I want to take you step by step through all of the different details on how to use this scoring board and why you're going to fall in love with it and want one of your very own. So let me go ahead and walk you through our scoreboard. Though when you take it out of the package, it's one piece of tool right here, and it's broken down. What I love about this, it's broken down into 1/8 inch increments all the way across the board, and it goes all the way up to a 12 by 12. Now on the back side of this little tool right here, we flip it over and we see that there's a little bit of funness in the back side, and when I pull this out right here, this little triangle right here creates the magic of making envelopes. Now I'm going to be walking you through that process as well, but as you can see here, it gives you all of the increments that you need to create envelopes, and on the flip side of that, it also shares with you how to create gift boxes. All of this in one tool. In addition, on the back side here, you have your little score tool that is also a crease tool as well, and I'm going to be using this throughout all of our demonstrations. But I want to share with you first how this tucks away. Now, on this side right here, there's a little lip right here. You can see that there's a little lip right there, and there's a little lip right here as well. Now those are valuable, as you'll see throughout our video, but the one I want to share with you right here, if we can open up that video screen just a little bit, is when I'm putting this back in, that little lip right there needs to go all the way to the end, and then it will just easily slip in. Your crease tool will slip back in, and you are good to go to work on the rest of your project once you get everything scored. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to go ahead and grab my triangle as well as my crease tool. I'm coming back to my scoring mat right here. All right, as I mentioned, these are all in increments of 1/8 inches. All right. Now what I want to do is I want to just share with you what's wonderful about a scoreboard is there are so many different ways that you can use this. This right here is an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, and what I've done is I've just cut it in half, and I can easily, traditionally we want to make a basic card fold. We could fold it over, and then we could use our crease tool and push it down like that, and sometimes the paper cracks and whatnot. What's wonderful about a crease tool is that what it's going to do is it's actually going to give me a score line, but in addition to that, it's going to break down the fibers of the cardstock so that it makes it easier for me to fold my card. So I've placed this right here, and I want to go ahead, this is at 8.5, I want to go ahead and go to my 4 1/4 right here. Now if I can get close to the video right here, if it could come in a little bit closer, I want to share with you that I've butted the end of my cardstock to the edge right over here. All right, and then what I'm going to do is I want to go ahead and score it in half, and I'm going to go ahead and if you can see here, I'm not all the way to the edge right here because I want to be able to get my tool in there. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of start it, and then I'm going to go all the way down. Now, scoring it a couple times is going to be helpful because what you're doing is you're breaking down the fibers of that cardstock. And one of the little questions that a lot of crafters have is, okay, so now I have this little score here. Which way do I fold my paper? Do I fold it with the crease or against the crease? Well, because we've broken down the fibers, all right, we want to go, and we can call this the valley, and of course this is the hill because it has the embossing area there, okay? We're gonna go away from the valley, okay? So again, this is where I scored it. I'm gonna go away from the valley. So that's our very first one. Then I could just take my crease tool and make it a stronger crease, and voila, I have a beautifully creased card that I can start creating with. Now, the same thing goes, just one more time, I'll share with you, I have an 8.5 by 11 inch piece of cardstock, and I've cut it in half the vertical way now, and I'm going to go ahead and score it as well. I'm gonna go up against my scoreboard again, butting it up against the side right here. And I'm not gonna go all the way to the edge there because I wanna kind of get it started. So this is at 11, so I wanna score at my 5.5, so I'm gonna get it started here, and then I crease, score, just a couple times just to make sure I've broken down those fibers, and then I'm ready to go away, fold it away from the valley. Use my scoring tool right here to make it a stronger crease, and voila, I am good to continue to create. Now, that's just the beginning of what you can do with this scoreboard, but I'm gonna go ahead and go to our next step. I'm gonna share with you how to create boxes. Since we're working at the top of this particular scoreboard, I'm gonna go ahead and share with you how to create boxes. Now, earlier I mentioned that this little guy right here, this is the triangle, and this is gonna help you create envelopes. Now, we're gonna do an envelope and an envelope box a little bit later in one of my other videos. However, on the other side here, the flip side, I have the instructions on how to create boxes. We're gonna create a box lid as well as the base. So what I'm going to do is take a look at which one I wanna use. It's going to tell me everything. I don't have to do any math. It's going to tell me exactly what I need to do. It tells me what box size I want to choose from, as well as what paper size I need to start with. And then it's going to give the score line for both the base as well as the lid. So for this particular example, I want to go ahead and create the box size 3 by 3 by 1 1/4. And then it tells me that I need a paper size 8 by 8, and it tells me I have a score line for my base at 1 1/4 inch and 2.5 inches. And then it tells me that my lid is still an 8 by 8 piece of paper, and I'm going to score the lid at 1 1/8 and 2 3/8. Okay, so I'm going to set that right there. I've already cut a piece of cardstock. This right here is 8 by 8. So I'm gonna go ahead and butt it up against the edge right there. And my first score line, as it mentions, okay, I'm gonna go back here just to remind myself right. So my first score line is at 1 1/4, and the second one, this is for the base, 1 1/4, 2.5, 1 1/4, 2.5. So I'm gonna go over here, and I'm going to score at 1 1/4, and I wanna make that a strong score line, and 2.5. 1 1/4, 2.5. I'm going to flip it 90 degrees there. 1 1/4, I'm gonna do the exact same thing. 1 1/4 and 2.5. Now, while I'm scoring this, I'm pressing down gently, but at the same time, I'm pushing in. I'm gonna turn it again because I want to definitely break down those fibers. So 1 1/4 and 2.5. Now I've got one more side here to complete. 1 1/4 and 2.5. All right, it's as simple as that. Now you can somewhat see on the picture right there what it looks like, but what I did was I wanted to make it a little bit easier. So I created the same thing, and I drew pencil line on it so you could actually see it. So then what I'm going to do is, on this piece right here, is I'm going to use my scissors, and I'm going to cut down, I'll show you on the original one here and then. I want to cut down the areas here to start my box. Okay, I'll show you right here, and I've already done it on here, is I'm cutting this first section off, and I actually want to cut that completely off. And then I'm going to do that on all of my sides here. Cut, cut. I'm going to turn it all the way to the opposite side here and do the exact same thing. I'm going to cut on those score lines. And then I'm going to cut off the outside edge there. All right, so you can see that right there. Well, I'm going to come back to one that I've already kind of started. It's the same thing as before, but I've already started some of my cuts. So I'm going to cut this edge, cut this one off, and pretty soon we're going to have the base of our card box ready. All right, now what I'm going to do is I want to make sure that I fold on all of these score lines to make sure that everything is nice and crisp. So I'm just going around the circumference of my box base and scoring it. All right. All right, now I am ready to start putting my box together. All right, so now what I would like to do is let's go ahead and go on the overhead again. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start putting my box together. So you see these two, remember we cut these earlier, right? So these are already up here. I'm going to fold those in, okay, just like that. I'm then going to take the edge there and fold it over, just like that, okay? So you can see that like that. What's really wonderful about these score lines and the boxes that you create here is that they're reinforced. Sometimes I've seen some boxes where all you have is just the one level of paper, and they're a little less, they're cool to create, but they're a little more flimsy. What I like about this is this box is reinforced because I've got an additional layer of cardstock that I'm bending over. Okay, so I did it on the other side. Let's go on the top view again, and I'm going to just fold over that last two edges there. And as you can see here, my box is actually staying in place, but I could easily, if I want to make it a little bit stronger so that it doesn't flip open, I could easily just use some of my glue and place that around there on all the edges, fold it over, and then what you could do is you could just put a little clip there if you want to hold it in place until it dries. So I'm going to set this aside because this right here is my base. Now, I've already pre-done a portion of my lid, but I'm going to come back here and walk you through it. So on my lid, I go back here on my 8x8 piece of cardstock with that same box. I'm now going over to the second set of score lines, and it says I need to score at 1 1/8 and 2 3/8. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and score that again, which I've already done, but I would do the same thing. I'd score, butt it up against the edge there, score at 1 1/8 all the way down, 2 3/8 all the way down, turn it, do the repeat on all four sides, right? All four sides, I'm scoring all the way around. Now, as you can see here, okay, I've got all those score lines done. And I also mentioned before is I want to cut the ends here. And then I'm going to cut the side one right here, just like we did before. I'm doing the exact same thing I did before on my previous one. Now I'm going to go ahead on all my score lines right there, right? I'm going to fold away from the valley. And I'm gonna score on all my edges. Make sure they're nice and crisp. Now, a couple of little tips I want to share with you while we're doing this one right here that you can work on is when I'm scoring and I'm getting ready to fold my box in, sometimes, depending on how detailed I am with my cut, for example, right here, if we can we get in a little bit closer? Possibly. All right, so right here, I actually didn't cut as close into the score as I wanted. So what I could do to make, what's gonna happen is when I go to fold this over, it's not gonna fold as easily because there's a little bit too much cardstock there. So a little tip that you can do is, on each of these areas, is you can just kind of snip it off a little bit at an angle on all of those edges right there, okay? So there. Okay, does that make sense? I hope that you're able to see that. Now, the other thing, what you can do, it's totally up to you. This is just another little hint. You'll notice that these little edges are still attached. I could actually cut these off, okay? Because I don't need it. I only ultimately need one, right? But I like to leave them there because it actually gives my box a little bit more sturdiness. Now that just went right in because I snipped that down. I'm gonna go to this side over here. Again, you could snip this one little edge off if you'd like. It's totally up to you. I'm just folding all those edges in. Now, because these score lines were already given to me based off the base and the lid, I'm gonna come back over here. This is my base, this is my lid. I'm going to easily just put that together, and voila, you have a beautiful box. And as I mentioned, these boxes are reinforced because of the additional little cardstock layer that we created when we were cutting them. Again, so easy, so simple for you to create. Again, it's reinforced based on the fact that I have that extra piece of cardstock. I'm folding over, tucking it in, tucking that one in, and I've got my box right there, perfectly designed. I also want to share with you, I created some additional little boxes here for you to look at. All of these are listed on the triangle that I shared with you earlier. This is just a few of the size boxes. Look at all of those. Don't forget to use your printed paper to make fun lids. And of course you can interchange a combination of your box base could have a different color than your lid. Have fun with it. There's so many things that you can do with this. Can you imagine what you can create for the upcoming holidays, for birthdays, little treats that you create for your guests that come to visit you? Anyways, I had a lot of fun creating all of these boxes, and I hope that you're going to see that the score tool is something that you're going to want to have. It's almost a necessity as a crafter. So make sure that you tune back to us at our next video, where I'm going to be training you and sharing with you how to create envelopes as well as envelope boxes. So I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye, everyone.